All right, so picking up from last time on page 5, everything we do in this section pretty well has to do with linear functions. So we're going to run through that, and then we'll run through 1.5 and 1.6. I doubt we'll make it through the whole thing tonight, but I'm going to try to get through the main things on that then. Okay, so picking up on number 9, just some simple things we want to look at here, kind of building up to graphing. So this is just if you have a point, 0, 6, okay, you just put a dot there, all right, and then if you have a slope, a lot of stuff like this, students usually have a pretty good foundation for that. What do you do if a slope's 2 over 1? You get from that point, what do you do? Up 2, right 1. So it's rise over runs, positive slope. So all you'd be doing on that is going up 2, right 1. Now this one, I think all we're doing on this one is just simply graphing that. Okay, I'm not really going to do anything with equations of a line until just a few minutes then. Okay, so this should be real straightforward. Okay, the next one, you want to plot the point 9, 2. If you have a slope of 0 over 1, what does that tell you to do? Yeah, go that way, okay? No rise. You have a 0 rise, so it goes that way, all right? So we have that. And then the next one is you got a point 5, negative 2, so that's your point. And if the slope's undefined, what does that tell you to do? Go that way. Okay, so you just want to make sure you have all that stuff straight. And it's so hard to draw a line on this thing and draw it straight. So that's the idea. All right, everybody okay? All right. Now, what we're going to get into now is the equation of the lines on the next page and a little bit more of that. A couple of things that I want to go through as far as graphs. Okay, the general form, and our textbook calls this a general form. You're going to hear that a standard form. There's one note you probably ought to write to yourself. Most textbooks are wanting a to be a positive number. So if you're putting the equation of a line in general form, all your x's and y's on the left side, and then a is greater than 0. And then also the other thing that you're typically going to do is if you have a fraction, just get rid of all your fractions. So if you got fractions anywhere in the equation, just clear those, okay? Next one we have is the point slope formula. And this is useful if you have a point and have a slope, and then you're trying to build the equation of that line, okay? This next thing's real simple, but students are really oftentimes really bad about remembering this. So if your equation just has an x in it, so if it has an x but it doesn't have a y, then what happens, so one thing I'd like you to write on your notes, let's just take like this as an example. Just write down x equals 2. What that really means is it really means this. If you were making a table of values, which you can always do, it just means x is always 2. Okay, and if x is always 2, what does the line look like? Be careful, it's this way. Okay, it always goes through x equals 2. So your line would go like this. So what you would do is just go over to 2, and then what you do is just draw a line that goes straight up and down like that. Okay, so what I'm saying is vertical lines go through the x-axis only. So if you only have an x in your equation, then you're going to touch the x-axis, but you're not going to come in contact with the y-axis. Unless it was x equals 0, then that's a little bit different. So think of it as just going through 2. All right. The opposite case would be if you have y equals a, and that would be you have a y but you don't have an x. Write this example down here. Just want you to have an example for each one basically. Okay, so if you had like y equals say 3, then if you made a table of values on this, well, y would always be 3. So if y is always 3, what does it look like? What's the graph look like? Be careful, it's this way. Okay, it goes through y. If it's only y, it goes through y and only comes in contact with the y-axis. That's one of the ways I think of it. If you learn how to make a table of values, you can always figure that out in case you forget, because it's not hard, but you got to have a way to understand and be able to create that when you need to. So I just think if it has a y, it goes through y. If it has an x, it goes through x. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Now the other thing that happens, just trying to help you kind of put a little logic to this, is if it has 2 variables, then it slants. That's going to guarantee that it slants if it has 2 variables. So what we're going to do on this is these have got 2 variables. I'm going to go through and show you kind of how to find the intercepts in your head. So if we find an x-intercept, what you do is you just set y equal to 0. So I'm going to create a real quick graph on this one only, and then I'll just kind of show you how to do the next one in your head. So if you do that, you would have 2x plus 4 times 0 is equal to 8. Of course, that would go to 0. Then you'd have 2x equals 8. You can solve that equation in your head. So what you would do is you would get x equals 4 would be your x-intercept. So that's what you do. And that will tell you where it comes in contact with the x-axis. It's going to come in contact with both. And then if you do a y-intercept, what you do is you just set x equal to 0. And if you do that, you would have 2 times 0 for x plus 4y equals 8. That would be 4y equals 8. Then if you divide by 4, then that's going to give y equals 2. Okay, so that's what you do. Now, so you can do this in your head. And I like to show students this usually because it's really easy to do in your head. This is in the general form. All your x's are there, your numbers are here. So if you want to find an x-intercept, this is all you got to do. Make the y go to 0 and see, you can solve that equation in your head, right? All right, x equals 4. That's where it crosses the x-axis. And then if you want to find the y-intercept, just block off the x and solve that in your head. That's 2. So you can go like boom, boom on these problems and graph them very accurately in your head if they're in the general form. So what you would end up having is you'd just basically have this. Just draw a sketch of this graph. So all you need to do is just go to x equals 4, y equals 2, and then you're going to draw that line like that. So that's how it goes, okay? All right? So be comfortable with how to do that. So the key thing that you want to sort out in your mind, if it only has a y, what does it do? Through y. If it only has an x, what's it do? Through x. If it has 2 variables, it touches both axes. All right, that's a good way to sort it out in your mind. Now this one, just see if you can do this in your head. What would the x-intercept be? Can you do that in your head? -6, right, because you're doing that. Just make that go away. Okay, it's going to touch x at -6. What's the y-intercept in your head? -2, right. Okay, everybody with me there, okay? All right. Okay, so you can do that. You know, sometimes they have decimals and fractions, so it's hard to do in your head. But if they have whole numbers, you can do that real easily, okay? All right, now next thing we want to do is we're kind of taking information and building an equation out of it. All these activities are getting you comfortable with the equation of a line and the concept. All right, so what this one means, I would go ahead on your paper and just do this. Let's just draw an XY axis, and then let's plot the point. So the point is -3, 2, then we'll put a dot there. So that's the point that you have. So if it's horizontal, that means it's going this way. So draw your line like that. And you want to be able on this to tell me what the equation is, like boom, boom. What is that equation? Y equals 2. Okay, it only goes through the y-axis, therefore it's y equals 2. Okay? All right, if it was vertical, it's totally different. All right? Okay? All right, everybody okay? Yeah? Give me a sign. Thumbs up, thumbs sideways, something. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to look at, we have 2 points, and we're going to find the equation of the line. First thing you want to do on this, when you begin to do your homework on here, you want to know what this means. So if they ask you for slope-intercept form, that means your equation needs to be y equals mx plus b. So that's how that needs to look. Your answer needs to look like that. All right? So let's go ahead and let's plot these 2 points. So go ahead and do that on your graph. So just go over 3 and up 8. So that's point number 1. Go ahead and do the second point, which is -1 and 7 like that. Okay? And then sketch that like that. Okay. So we got to do a little process on this, and I'm going to show you one way to do this, and there's another way to do this. So the first thing you got to do is you got to find the slope. Now the slope on this, you can either count it out or you can use the formula. Okay, let's just use the formula on this. You want to make sure you're confident with the formula. You don't have to write this formula down. I'm just doing that mostly for reference. Okay, that should be an x2. So what it really means is when you're doing a slope, you're finding how far apart y is. You pick the order you want to do that in. Okay, you don't always have to do it the same order. I'm just going to go 7 minus 8. Whoops, not that way. That's a minus. So I'm just going to do like 7 subtract 8 in that order. And then I'm going to do the x's in exactly the same order. So it's -1 minus 3. So that would be -1 over -4. therefore the slope is 1/4. Okay, now you can also do this in your head. If you are going from this point to this point, what are you doing? You're rising 1 and running 4. So you can count it out and get the same answer. You see what I mean? Okay, so you can do that either way. So what we're going to do next is, the second thing, and I'm going to show you this way, is we're going to use the point slope formula. The point slope formula, when you get into a calculus class, you will see it all the time when you write an equation of a tangent line. So it's good to get it down now. So write it down. It's just y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 here. Okay? There's another way to do this, but this is what I'm going to focus on tonight. All right, so what we do is we do this. You basically just pick a point. It turns out that it doesn't make any difference which point you pick. It's going to give you the same answer. I would be inclined to use 3/8 just because it's all positive numbers, okay? But it really ultimately doesn't matter. So what you would do is 8 is y1. So the 8's going to go in there. The 3 is x1. So it's going to go there. And then the slope's 1/4 like that. All right? So I'm just taking that point and I'm plugging that in. Everybody with me there, okay? All right? So let's go ahead and let's finish this now. So what we'd have is we'd have y minus 8 is equal to 1/4 x minus 3. All right, and you need to solve for y because the directions to the problem said do the slope-intercept form. Now, to me, this is the best thing to do. You don't have to do what I'm asking you to do. You could distribute, but couldn't you get rid of the 4? Yeah, you can make fractions go away in an equation, right? What do you do to both sides of the equation to make that go away? Multiply by 4. That's what I would do. Okay, let's see if I do that. I'll have 1/4 x minus 3/4. I don't want the fraction. You can always get rid of fractions if you have an equation, so you want to develop the habit to do that. You'll do better if you do it that way. So let's do this. Let's just multiply that side by 4 and multiply the entire left side by 4. Okay? That's just the way you'll see me doing this most of the time. So if I distribute on the left side, that's going to give 4y minus 32. That's going to cross that out, and that's just going to leave x minus 3. Now it's easy to solve for y because you don't have to worry about fractions. So when we do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 32 to both sides. You can show that step, or you can simply write it like this. I like usually in this level of class get students used to just rearranging things on an equation like that. Okay, then that would give you 4y is equal to x plus 29. Okay, then the last thing you do is you need to divide everything by 4. So divide both sides by 4, and then we're going to be in the slope-intercept form. So it looks like we'd have y equals, this is 1/4 x, because there's a 1 in front of that x, and then we'd have 29 over 4. Okay, like that. So that would be the equation of the line. Now, before I, go to the next idea that I want to show you, what I want to do on this is show you that you want to make sense of this. A lot of times students get an answer and they move on. Okay, you always want to develop the habit of thinking about your answer. Okay, so let me show you something. On my calculator, if I was to go through and do like 29 divided by 4, okay, that's going to give about 7.25. All right, so here's what you want to do. Look at the graph you drew and see if this makes any sense to you. So this is telling you what? That's telling you the y-intercept, right? Okay, that's telling you y-intercept's about 7.25. So what you can do is just visually, you can see if that looks right. It's a little hard to tell on this one because of, wow, that does look off. Did I draw that right? 3. Oh, yeah, here's what I did. Okay, well, see, I kind of catch mistakes. I caught my mistake, my graphing. I was off on my graphing. I don't know if you guys even saw that or not. Sometimes I can't see these grids very good on here. At least that's my excuse. So this is 3/8, like that. This is -1/7. Is that better? Okay, all right. So now can you see that it looks like that crosses around 7.25, just, ballpark, okay? So you can get kind of a rough idea of how that's right, okay? One other thing I would really like you to write down on here is let's go to this point where we have the answer we have is y. I'm going to write down this and show you how you can tell for sure And I'm only going to do this like one time, but this is something that you can do also. See, okay, say you're taking a test, a little bit of time left, and you want to make sure you're right. All in the world you have to do on this problem to tell you're right is just take the other point and plug it in and see if it works. And if it works, you're guaranteed to be right. So in other words, what I'm going to do is take the 7 and plug in for y, and I'm going to take the -1 and plug in for x, and let's just see if it works. Okay, and that was something I'd write down because you want to know how to do that. So this would just be 7 equals, that would be -1/4 plus 28/4. All right, well, how do you add fractions? Oh, did I do something wrong? 29. Okay. Like, because I'm thinking ahead and I know what this is supposed to be. Thank you. That's 29. All right, so in other words, -1/4 plus 29/4 is 28/4. Well, that's 7, isn't it? You see what I mean? Okay, so plug the point in. When you get an answer, plug the point in. Both of them will work. Okay, generally if you plug one in, that's going to tell you you're on the right track. Okay? All right, is everybody with me there? Okay. Okay, you have the ability to tell you're right. So that's one way to do that. If you have 2 points, then you can find the slope either by counting or using the slope formula. Then you can use the point slope formula as the method that I'm showing you tonight. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this one then. And this one right here, we can probably do this without going through this. So I want you to go ahead and just plot your 2 points. And I want you to do that on these problems so you kind of visually make a certain connection. So you got left 3 and you got up 5. So that's my point -3, -5. Then I have the point 0, -7. Okay? I'm going to take a totally different approach on this problem. However, you could do exactly the same thing I did on the last problem. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. God, what's wrong with me? I think it's Labor Day weekend, and I'm kind of like, get out of here. Okay, so thank you. If I do something like that, just correct me. I'm kind of doing some stupid things tonight here. Yeah, that's left 3, down 5. I like it better that way, too. The problem's even easier to do this way. Because what I was wanting to do on this is just see if you can do this in your head. Okay, now we're going to put this in the general form, so when you're doing your homework, one of the things I want you to do is always look for something easy if you see it. Save time. That's what you want to do. So go ahead and write down the general form, or the slope-intercept form. It's y equals mx plus b. You can do this problem in your head. Okay, that's what I want you to see. Do you know what the y-intercept is? I gave it to you, right? Okay, so see, you see something like that, you're saying, oh, I don't need to go through all this stuff. I can do that in my head. Could you just count out that slope? Yeah, why not? That's down 1, right 3. Okay, so that slope is -1/3, and you can plug in. Now what we're going to do on this problem is change this also to general form. Yes?
Especially 0, -7. No, 0, -7.
I need to zoom on this a little bit better. Jeez. And I'm recording this too, and I'm going to put it on YouTube for the whole world to see. Okay, so anyway, okay, let's try very carefully. -3, -5, 0, -7. All right, so now what's the slope? There we go, down 2, right 3. Is that better? Okay. All right, so we have y equals -2/3 x, and then the y-intercept 7. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you on that problem is I already gave you a y-intercept. Right, so you can do it easier and faster this way. Now, general form, if you're doing the general form, what that means is you want the answer to be in this structure, ax plus by equals c. So the things that I said that you want to make sure you understand about general form, it really just means put all the x's and y's on that side, numbers on that side. What did I say about that number? I said 0. Greater than 0. What did I say about fractions? Make them go away. Okay, that's kind of what you want. Because, my math lab, if you're doing homework, it's going to want a specific answer. So what you want to do on this, and you can do this in a different order, I'm going to have you start just by moving the 2/3 x to the left. And then we'll start like that. Okay, so really one more thing and we've done. What else do I need to do? Get rid of the fraction. How do you do that? Multiply by 3, right. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and let's take both sides and multiply by 3. Then we'll have our answer. Okay, so what'll happen, I'm doing a distributive property here now. So I'm doing 3 over 1 times 2/3 x. That'll cross out the 3's. Then I'm doing plus 3y is equal to negative 21. Okay, that crosses that out. That's 2x plus 3y is equal to negative 21. All right, that's the right standard form. All right, is everybody with me there? Now, I want you to do something else, because I like students to get to a point where they can do a lot of stuff in their head. So one of the points that we had was, and I want to just have you kind of do this in your head with me. That was one of the points on the line. If you want to tell this is right, you can do this in your head. What are you going to do? You're going to plug that in. What's 2 times negative 3? Negative 6. What's 3 times negative 5? Negative 15. Does that work? Can you see that in your head? That's negative 6 minus 15 is equal to negative 21. Okay, that's what a student ought to do if they're doing their homework on a problem like that. Okay, I got an answer. Am I right? Then press the button on My Math Lab so that you don't get the sorry. You see what I mean? You'll learn it and you'll understand it better if you develop the habit of, can I check this answer? Okay? All right. Okay. So moving on to the next thing here. This is just kind of another thing with slope and equations of lines. Just want to look at this situation. All right. So a lot of times, cost and functions are linear. So this one basically just has this information. Okay, if you take a telephone call and it lasts 5 minutes, then you're charged $2.50. That's a piece of information. And then if you talk for 15 minutes, it's going to cost $6.50. Okay, now I'm telling you that it's linear, so we're going to write a linear equation that relates the cost to the time x. Okay, so what you have is you have 2 points. Okay, we're going to do this kind of like we did before, and let's put the points together, and then I'm going to give you a little time to do this one. Okay, so in this order, it tells you this. It tells you y is time, and then it tells you x. No, I got that backwards. That's not what it says. It says time is x. Okay, so time is going to go here. That's what it says. And then it says y is the cost. Okay, like that. So here's what I want you to do. We have 2 points. Okay, the first point is going to be time, 5 minutes, $2.50. Okay, the second point is going to be, again, hold on. Did I do that backwards again? Cost is y, $2.50. Okay, time is, yeah, okay, I got it right. I'm just making sure, okay? All right, so we go to the next one. We have 15 and we have $6.50, okay? Those are your 2 points, okay? So go ahead and you find the equation of the line, and what I want you to do is I want it to be in the form ax plus by equals c. I got to get you guys to do stuff. Some of you got laptops and or this. They're giving me this look tonight, okay? I got to get you to work, okay? Hey, that's how you learn math, so go for it, okay? Well, I'll walk around and see if you're doing what you need to be doing, okay? So you got 2 steps, and this is what, and I'm just going to give you, start you off on a couple of things. You want to find the slope, and then the easiest way to do this is the point slope formula, okay? This is what I showed you a few minutes ago. There isn't really any easy way to do this one in your head. You've got to run through and crunch out details. So go for it, and we'll kind of compare answers and see where we're at on this stuff then, okay? And why don't you use, since we're dealing with money, why don't you use a decimal for the slope? Okay, that's what I would have you do. It's probably a decimal for the slope, so you can use your calculator on that if you want. So you can do that. I can pretty well do the slope kind of in my head on that. So yeah, there will be something I'm looking for. But use a decimal, and that decimal will have won't repeat or anything like that. Okay. So get your slope, get that established, and your point slope formula. printouts, okay, those are up there. Okay. Do the printout. Yeah. Can you tell me what the slope is in a decimal form? 0.4. Okay, good. That's what I'm looking for, first of all. And then go ahead and take it from there. It doesn't matter which point you plug into the point slope formula. Okay. You should get the same answer. So just kind of crunch it out. Then I want it in standard form. Okay, so that's 0.4. Or 2/5. I want it as a decimal since we're talking about money. Okay. So 4/10 is what you get, but that would be 0.4. Okay. Or 2/5 is 1/4. Okay, is this all you've written down tonight? Should do more. You want to do those printouts, okay? That's easy grade. Okay, what's that? Okay, transfer it later. Just get everything down. Okay. All right, so we got the 0.4. Let me see kind of where we're at. So I'm kind of seeing people that are not having any trouble with the slope. So I got 0.4x. Anybody get this? Yep. When you did the point slope form, did anybody get to this point yet? What do you got?
Plus 0.5, plus
0.5. Did you get 0.5? How many people are getting 0.5 there? Okay. I'll go over this in just a minute. So I want to kind of make sure that you're getting to that point. Now that's not standard form. We're going to put that in standard form here in just a minute. So I want to make sure that we got everything. So on your slope, everybody's got the slope down. So that would just be 6.5 minus 2.5 over 15 minus 5. That's 4/10. So that's 0.4. Okay, so we got that. Now, let's see if you did the second part right here. So the second part, you would have y minus, and you pick a point. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick the first one because the numbers are smaller. That's my thought process. So what I'd have is y minus 2.5 is equal to the slope 0.4 times x minus 5. Okay, that point gets plugged in the point slope formula. So that's going to give you y minus 2.5 equals 0.4x. And then 0.4 times 5, what's that? 2. Okay, so you have that. Then you can add 2.5 to both sides. And you would have y equals 0.4x plus 0.5. That's what's on the board, right? Okay. So is everybody with me on that okay? All right. Now what we're going to do on this is you can do this a little differently than I can. If you want to put this in standard form, what does that mean? X and y on the left, number on the right, okay? Now you can do this if you want to, okay? You want to get to where you're pretty flexible on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to move the y over here this time. So that's 0.4x minus y, and then move the 0.5 to the other side. So it's negative 0.5. Why do you think I did it that way? I wanted the number in front of x to be positive, okay? That's why I did what I did. And that's a good answer. I mean, you can have 0.4x minus y is equal to negative 0.5. Okay, but I want to mention one other thing on this problem. That's fine if you had that answer. Another thing that you could do is make the decimal go away. So what can you multiply 0.4 by to make the decimal move to the right one place? 10. So another thing I'd like you to do is go ahead and just multiply everything by 10. Okay? Because you want to know how to work with decimals and fractions. So that would be 4x minus 10y is equal to negative 50. Okay, that would be the cleanest way you could write that answer is like that. Okay, yeah. What's that? Oh, negative 5. Okay, well, that's like about 10 mistakes already for me tonight. I'm ready for my long weekend. Okay, so is everybody with me? Okay on that? Yeah, when you take a number multiplied by 10, it always moves the decimal to the right one. Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so let's do this one. I want you to crunch this one out yourself too, and I want you to go ahead on this one and just plot the point do the slope. I want you to go ahead and get your line and then use the point slope formula on this one just to see if you get the answer. So I want you to do one more, and then we've got a few more things to wrap up our section. So go ahead and do that one, okay? All right, I'll walk around and make sure you're doing that. So I think we're okay with slope. I'm observing that. I just want to make sure everybody's good with the point slope formula, okay? And then draw your graph too. Put your point, do your slope of 6, count that out, and then see if the two answers, the graph matches up with what you get on your equation, okay? And then this one I want to solve for y. So I just want the answer in the form y equals mx plus b. Okay? Just be flexible that you know how to do standard form and slope-intercept form and all that stuff. Okay? And then I want you to do one more thing. When you get your answer, which is going to look like y equals mx plus b, then I want you to plug the point in, -2, -6, into your answer and see if it checks. So do that also. You read my mind. Good. You already know. So you know you're right. I think. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. What answers do we have? Throw something out.
6x plus 6.
6x plus 6. Anybody else have that? Okay, you're close. 6x minus 6. I saw a few different. Do you have 6x minus 6? How many people have 6x minus 6? Yeah, okay, we're going to find out then. Plug your point in. That's how you find out if you're right or not. So let's see what it is. All right. And if you made a mistake, I already know where it is. I mean, it's been teaching so long, I know that. So you would say y minus -6 equals the slope, which is 6, times x minus -2. Okay, you got the minus, okay, and you want to make sure you handle that okay. And just write that as y plus 6 equals 6 times x plus 2. You know, right steps, okay? All right, so what we have is y plus 6 equals 6x plus 12. Then you can subtract 6 from both sides. So we got y equals 6x plus 6. Okay, that's what I'm getting. If you got a minus 6, all you did is an arithmetic. You just did something wrong with a negative. That's all you did. Okay? All right. Okay, and then on the graphing on this, what you want to do is left 2, down 6. And then if you have a slope of 6 over 1, then what you would do is this. So you should have gone from here up 6 over 1, put a dot, up 6 over 1, put a dot, and you got that. Now you should be able to see that that answer matches that graph. Can you? Yeah, because the y-intercept's 6, and if you look at the graph that I just did, the y-intercept's 6, right? Okay, so that's it. Okay, all right, so we're getting that okay. I think you just got to watch with your arithmetic a little bit. Any questions about what you just did? Are you guys feeling comfortable with that? Okay. Okay, all right. So let's look at this, okay, write this in the slope-intercept form. So all it ever means to write something in the slope-intercept form is to take the equation and solve it for y. Okay, so what we're going to do is just move the x over to this side. So that's going to give 5y equals -17x plus 2. And then what you do from here is just divide by 5. Okay, and let's see. So that's going to be y equals -17 x plus 2/5. All right, so anytime that you want to put it in the slope-intercept form, that just means solve for y. What's the slope? -17 over 5. What's the 2/5? What does that mean? Y-intercept. Okay, there we go. All right, very good. All right. Hopefully a lot of this stuff for most everybody is stuff you remember from your past, or it's just like quick reminder. That's what we're kind of looking at this stage in the class. Okay, so this one would just be already solved for y, so that means the slope's -3/2, and the y-intercept's 2. Now what I prefer you all do is don't just give 2, always write a y-intercept as a point, because a y-intercept is a point, it's not a number. Okay, that's just where it crosses the y-axis. Get in the habit of putting a point on that. Okay, all right. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to complete these problems here, and what I want you to do here with this is solve for y, and then I want you to see if you can get the correct slope and y-intercept on that. And then on number 20 and 21, I want you to sketch a graph, and then in your head, see if you can tell me what the slope and y-intercept is then. Okay? Right? So let's do that. I'll walk around. I need to see if you guys are working and doing some stuff and making progress. Solve for y on the first one, and I'll kind of walk around and see if you guys remember how to do your graphs. Okay. If you forget how those lines go on those two, think about what I taught you. Okay? If it has a y, that means something. If it just has an x, that means something. And vertical and horizontal lines, it's helpful if you just know what their slope is. That's kind of one way. So as you see on the one problem, you just end up making a negative on that one that's in this way. That's what I thought. I did sketch it on the paper. Okay, so let's see. 19, what did you get for the slope?
-3/7.
Okay, -3/7. How about the y-intercept? And write it as a point, so write it as 0.5/7. So this one's just solving for y, so you have 7y equals -3x plus 5, and then be sure you divide everything by 7. Okay, so that gives you your solution. Your slope is -3/7, and then your y-intercept is 0.5/7. Okay, you'll do that all the time. Okay, what does the graph of y equals -2 look like? Goes this way, goes through the y-axis. Okay, that's what you got to know. You want to know that real quick and not have to spend time trying to figure that out. What is the slope of a line if it's horizontal? 0. What's the y-intercept? -2. You can tell by looking. Okay, it's the y value that it crosses like that. So that's how that goes. What does the graph of 21 look like? This way. Okay, only has an x. That means that it touches the x-axis only. So it'll go like that. And what's the slope? Undefined. And write undefined, guys. That's important. And make a note of that if you need to. Sometimes students will write their answer that way. In mathematics, that means empty set. That doesn't mean undefined. And sometimes, if I look at that, that looks like a 0. A lot of people write their zeros that way. Write out or abbreviate that it's undefined. Okay? What did you conclude about the y-intercept? It doesn't have one, exactly. Okay, because it's never going to come in contact. That's it. Okay?
Is there a specific way you want us writing that? NA or none? Or?
No, just it doesn't matter. That you just say it doesn't have one, none, whatever. Now on the slope, you do have to say undefined. There isn't any other way to say that. Okay? All right. Okay, so let's see. Last problem here. I want you all to do this yourself. So I want you to solve for y, and then I want you to sketch the graph. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And then that'll kind of wrap up what we need in this section then. Okay, first thing you need to see is look at your, when you solve for y, and make sure you got that. Does that look good? Okay, just be careful with negatives, okay? And your y-intercept's 1, so you put a dot there. And the slope, you should have went up 2, right 3 from that point. You only got to put one, get one other point, so I'm going to go right 2 up 3, and then be sure you sketch the line going through like that. Okay, so that's how that goes. All right, that will wrap up lines. Is there any question about that? Does this seem like stuff that you remember pretty good from your past, or if it's coming right back to you and pretty simple? Okay, that's kind of what we're looking for here at the beginning of the semester, is kind of quick refreshers on stuff, okay?